Chapter 10. "Oh no!" Dominic cried. "He's taken me back! The old man has taken me back into his dream!" "I still say it sounds like Il Malocchio to me," Salvatore said, shaking his head. Antonio and Salvatore began to pick up stones from the ground. "Make sure there are 13 of them," Francesco ordered. He turned to Dominic and whispered, "Don't worry, we'll fill your pockets." "What are you talking about?" Dominic asked. "If the evil eye has been placed on you," Francesco explained, "you need to wear a horn or carry 13 stones. 13 is a lucky number. It wards off evil. We have no horns, so you have to use the 13 stones. But I don't believe it was Il Malocchio. I think it was the earthquake." Confused by all the talk of evil eyes and earthquakes, and the thought that he had somehow gone back in time, Dominic reached for his lucky key and let out a horrified cry when he discovered it was gone. "Calm down," Francesco said. "You're very mixed up right now." "No, you don't understand," Dominic protested. "I've lost it, the only thing I've ever cared about." "Yes, you've lost your family, I know," Francesco said gently. "We 3 are orphans, like you. We, too, have lost our parents." For a moment, Dominic thought about his lost key and stared at Francesco and his brothers. He'd never met other orphans. He'd always been the only one in his class, whichever class he was in. As he stared, he noticed how these boys looked so dirty and unkempt. They looked much worse off than he had ever been. No, that's not what I meant," he answered. "Listen to me. I'm not from here. This is all a dream. It's the old man's dream." "If this is a dream, why don't you just wake up?" Dominic thought this over and decided it was worth a try. Closing his eyes as tight as he could, he took a deep breath. "All I have to do now is will myself to wake up. I'm going to wake up now, and this is all going to be gone, and I'll be back at the museum," he whispered. Sitting perfectly still, Dominic concentrated as hard as he could. He counted to 10 and opened one eye. Francesco shook his head. "Some dreamer," he said. "Is this the best you can do? If this were my dream, I'd have a pirate ship, silver swords, and a bowl of mussel soup, and some pasta with garlic sauce, and some sweet pantanone, sweet cake, for dessert." "Oh no," Dominic moaned, opening his other eye. "You're not real. I know you're not real." "What the old men in the village say is true," Francesco shrugged. "You live at the toe of the boot, and you go crazy from the stink." "Boot? Toe? What are you talking about?" "Haven't you learned your geography yet? Even in a little hill town like Avoletto, we know of such things. This land is shaped like a boot, and Calabria, where you are from, is in the toe of the boot." "But I never said I came from there," Dominic protested. "I told you Sure, I know, you're from a dream," Francesco said with a wave of his hand. "Listen, mio amico. Listen, my friend. The earthquake has given you a bad shock." Francesco gently placed his arm around Dominic's shoulder. "That is enough to rattle anyone's head." He knocked on Dominic's forehead with his knuckles. Dominic leaned away from Francesco. He was not used to anyone touching him or being so familiar. "Look out!" Antonio suddenly shouted. Dominic had no sooner turned his head to look when he heard a jangle of a bell and his face met with a blur of white fur. Francesco reached out to grab him as he was about to fall off the wall he had been sitting on. Dominic sat back up and found himself staring into the amused, dark eyes of a goat. "Violetta, I am surprised at you," Francesco scolded. "Is that any way to greet a stranger?" Dominic sat up with a start as the goat lowered her head demurely and began to lick his hand with her long, pebbly pink tongue. With a graceful upward motion, she raised her head back up and burped in his ear. With a shock, Dominic thought about how it had only been yesterday that he had been back at the museum wishing for someone to burp in his ear. Now it all seemed like light years away. There was so much he didn't understand. How did he get here? How was he to get back? Why were these boys filling his pockets with stones? And who was this goat that was burping in his ear?